Hello AP English Language and Composition students, Mr. Francavilla here. We are on lesson 39 and we are on part 2 of logical fallacies. Alright, so I left off with, just before this logical fallacy, hasty generalization, and this one might have been a little on this new video, but let's start from scratch on straw man. So, what is a straw man? It's when you substitute some modification of the original argument, making it easier for you to refute. Alright, so we're going to look at an example of that. Now, the example I have is not very long, but you've got to listen a little bit. And here's the first part. A social reformer, someone who wants to improve society, might say, it's not fair that women, when doing the same work as men, are paid only 76 cents for every dollar that men are paid. Isn't it reasonable to expect that one's gender should have no impact on one's salary? So here, a person responds, a chauvinist, someone who doesn't like women, and responds, of course not. Everyone knows that bosses go easier on women and what they do. Besides, girls are physically smaller and weaker than men, so they need to be protected from the real world. Women naturally look to men to lead them. Alright, so it's the chauvinist's response that is tricky, and he starts out by mentioning women in a negative way, but then he starts to say, besides, girls are physically smaller and weaker than men, so they need to be protected. That is a straw man, because the original argument was wasn't really just focusing on women, but it was just both genders should be paid the same, and then that's a slight straw man to switch just to the women and them being treated more preferentially. But the big switch is from switching from women to girls, and then bringing out the weaknesses of girls in relation to men. Girls are physically smaller and weaker than men. So that is a straw man shift, very obviously. Right? I can attack the characteristics of girls that might make them, it might justify their being paid less. Yeah, yes you could. Now you don't have the original argument anymore, and they're not even adults, so they're not even working in the jobs that you were referring to. So that's a straw man. Now, we're moving on, slippery slope. It is good to look at what category of logical fallacies some fall under. It's a fear tactic. All right? If you allow the first thing to happen, then by a series of related, supposedly, events, like a domino effect, something horrible will finally occur that is not acceptable. So don't accept the first step, is the idea for slippery slope. Now, on slippery slope, let's see if you have an example. Yes, I do. For instance, animal experimentation reduces our respect for life. If we don't respect life, we are likely to be more and more tolerant of violent acts like war and murder. Soon, our society will become a battlefield in which everyone constantly fears for their lives. It will be the end of civilization. So, by allowing animal experimentation to continue, you are going to obliterate our whole civilization. Don't think so. All right. So that they do get a little extreme sometimes, but it's a series of related events, all right? Cause-effect series that ends in something catastrophic usually. So that's slippery slope. Overgeneralization. Now, it is good to know the other names for overgeneralization. Overgeneralization can also be referred to as stereotyping, oversimplifying, because we have that other term, hasty generalization. It's a totally different logical fallacy. So this is simplifying or stereotyping. And an example would be, see if I have one here. all Americans are friendly. Lawyers never tell the truth. Women always love babies. So look for, these type of words that make, a blanket statement, and then you might be realizing that there is overgeneralization. Okay. Next one, non sequitur. I'm going to make that a little more legible. All right. In Latin, it just means does not follow. Does not follow. Non sequitur. So it means that in the different statements in an argument, there's no logical connection. All right. For instance, I received a bad grade. You must not like me. So my achievement on some test or assignment was related to the teacher's feelings about the student. So usually it's not the case. So that is a non sequitur, right? And now we'll move on. We really only have 14, I think, total logical fallacies to go over. Let's see. So, appeal for sympathy or pity, and in the Latin it would be ad misericordiam. Ad misericordiam, appeal for sympathy or pity. So here, let's look for an example of that. For instance, we should re-elect Senator so-and-so. After all, he has a crippled mother, mentally impaired son, and his wife just died. So playing the pity card. But we should really vote for him based on his own merits, not because he's having a difficult life right now. So appeal for sympathy, appeal to pity, or this term. Now, the next one is a very commonly occurring logical fallacy. Sometimes it's called poisoning the well, or name calling. Poisoning the well or name calling. In Latin, ad hominem. See if we have an example of that. Yeah. I did that one earlier, perhaps. I think I did. But you attack the person. Yes, I did. I did that earlier. You attack the person, not the argument. And we did this one earlier, just now. And it also has the Latin term dicto simplicitur, right? And there is, I think, only one more new one. And that would be equivocation. Okay. So equivocation. Now, if you were to go to chapter 17 in your Everything's an Argument textbook, page 491, begins that chapter. They do explain this logical fallacy. They give an example. It was from President Bill Clinton. There was a scandal involving Monica Lewinsky and allegations that they had sex. Well, he tried to get out of it by that allegation by saying, I never had sexual relations with that woman. The book refers to this. It's called equivocation. The idea is that he is saying, I never had, all full-blown sexual relations, like I did not have sexual intercourse with that woman is the idea, which may have been true, but you had some sort of interaction that was sexual with that woman, is the point, all right? And some illicit sexual relation. So he was trying to get out of the situation through the wording. And that happens in other ways, too, that aren't so salacious as that. It's when you take a specific term in the argument, a very important term, and then you use it in two different ways and trying to make someone accept its value the one way when they wouldn't, all right, normally. So let's find an example for that. Equivocation. Oh, it's at the very end here. All right. For instance, here's an example. Giving money to charity is the right thing to do. So charities have a right to our money. So we might agree with the first statement that when you give money to charities, it's ethical, it's moral. Maybe technically not sometimes if they're not using the money correctly, but generally yes. So charities have a right to our money. The word right doesn't mean the same thing in both cases. The second one, it means they have a claim to our money, all right? Just because they do something good doesn't mean they have a claim to our money, all right? Just because it's good to give money to charity doesn't mean I have to, is the idea. So they're playing on the word right and trying to get us to move from the moral ethical thing in the general sense to them having a claim on my money, a right to my money. So equivocation is slippery. Sometimes it's called speaking out of both sides of your mouth. So those are our logical fallacies.